Welcome to Thriller Recaps. Today, I am explaining the movie, The Girl Who Escaped, explaining every scene as it happens. Watch till the end, and please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this. A teenager, Kara Robinson, woke up after spending the night at her friend Jess' house. They both made plans to go to a friend's lake house. Kara called her mom, Deborah, to seek permission to go with Jess, as she'll be coming back late. Her mom asked if she'd be going with her boyfriend, but Kara said she wouldn't because he was busy, so he wouldn't be going. Deborah gave her permission, also letting her know not to wait for her because she was going on a date. Jess, who had also spoken to her own mom, told Kara that her mom had also agreed that she could go, but only if she watered their plants outside. Kara was happy to hear this. She offered to water the plants so Jess could go shower. She was watering the plants when a car stopped in front of the house. The driver, Richard, approached Kara with a pamphlet, wanting to know if her parents were around. Kara explained that it was her friend's house, and Jess's parents weren't around. Richard went to show her the pamphlet, but just then, he placed a gun on her throat and told her not to scream, or else he would use it. He told her to get into a plastic box inside his car. She was scared and had no choice, so she got in. She felt very afraid as he drove away with her inside the box. Jess got dressed and went outside to find Kara so they could leave together. But she could not find her, so she got scared. She thought her mom changed her mind and decided not to let her go, so she called Deborah to confirm, but Deborah did not come to pick her up. This got them all worried. Meanwhile, Kara was brought to a lonely place. Richard tied her hands, put something in her mouth to keep her quiet, and tied her legs before putting her in the plastic box. Then he drove away with her, and she kept breathing very fast inside the box. After driving for a while, he stopped and warned Kara not to make any noise because he still had his gun. Then he carried the plastic box with Kara inside his house. He opens the box, threatening her not to make a sound so he can remove her restraints. He unties her, and she looks around his house to gather information. Deborah calls Ryan, her boyfriend, to ask if Kara is with him. He tells her that Kara is supposed to be with Jess, so Deborah informs him that Kara is missing and to call the police. Richard takes Kara to his bedroom, which has a number of toys. He gives her a set of rules to follow, or else she'll get in trouble if she fails to. He asks her questions about her family, friends, and their addresses. She also tells him that her parents are separated. Then he asks her about Ryan and if they had sex together. She says no, not with him or anyone else. He asks her if she loves Ryan and Jess and if she thinks they would miss her, and by now she starts crying. He starts unbuttoning his shirt, telling her to lie down on his bed as he gets ready to forcefully do her, telling her to be quiet. After raping her, he tells her to get into the shower. So Kara uses the opportunity to gather information, and while studying her environment, she notices a window. Deborah calls Ron Robinson, Kara's dad, to inform him of her disappearance, to which he tells her that he would start heading back from where he was working. Deborah insistently tells a sheriff deputy who came to investigate that Kara is missing and not a runaway, like the deputy suggests. Later that day, Kara sits with Richard as he asks her about her school. She decides to have a conversation with him, intent on gathering information about him. They talk about him going to school but not attending college. He tells her that he went to Navy school, but then he left because he was not given the promotion he deserved. She tells him that it was impressive that he had been in the Navy. He informs her that he is not planning to hurt her unless she makes him do so. Richard tells her that he will let her go when he is done with her. Then he brings out a smoking pipe, which he holds out to her after showing her how to use it. She inhales the smoke, coughing after trying it, so she tells him to show her the technique he was using for his. He gets her to stall so as not to smoke. She comments on his animal pets, asking him questions about them, which he answers. She asks him what he does for a living, which he tells her, also telling her that he is originally from San Diego. He tells her again that he was going to let her go when he was done, but if she reports him, then she would be the girl that was raped. He plays a sex tape for them to watch. Deborah is busy at home, calling their contacts and wanting them to join the search for her daughter. Kara asks him for permission to use the toilet in order to use it as an opportunity to escape through the bathroom window, but he foils her plan by going to the bathroom with her. Back in the living room, he tells her that he is going to make dinner. She asks him what he wants her to do for him, to which he says that she can sweep the kitchen. She picks up the broom, and as she sweeps, she checks the contact information pasted on the fridge, then the notes on the calendar of someone going to Disneyland. She memorizes them, and then all of a sudden he tells her to remove the shirt she is wearing, with a lusty look on his face. She does as he says, with tears in her eyes. In another scene, Deborah informs Sheriff Dale Stevens that a black car was spotted by the neighbors that day. He asks her if maybe it belongs to her friend, but she replies that it doesn't. He also asked Deborah if she always knew where her daughter went, and she said no, she doesn't. Deborah tells him that she knows that Kara wouldn't stay this long without calling. Sheriff Stevens assures her that he will get the best hands on deck for Kara's case. She tells him that she needs him to do something. He tells her to go home and wait to be called. Right after raping Kara, Richard turns on the TV, which wasn't showing any report on her being missing, to make her think her loved ones weren't searching for her, with the intent to dampen her spirit. He takes her to the bedroom again, where he gags her and orders her to get into the plastic box as he closes it so she doesn't make a sound because he wanted to make a call. Kara gets a panic attack due to this, so he removes the gag but leaves her inside the box, though he doesn't close it. He comes back after making his call, praising her for being quiet, and then he gives her a pill for anxiety, which she takes. While Richard is brushing his teeth as they prepare for bed, Kara imagines making a run for the bathroom window, but in her imagination, she doesn't make it out. Richard restrains Kara's feet and hands on the bed as they go to sleep. The next day, Kara wakes up before Richard, so she hastily but quietly frees herself from the bed. She tiptoes out of the bedroom towards the front door as she removes the locks on it. Then she runs out of the house, looking for help. She flags down a car with two men inside, telling them that she had been kidnapped and had just escaped. She begs them to take her to the police and also tells them to remember the apartment building number as they leave. At the police station, Kara tells the desk officer about her ordeal. So he tells her to sit and wait while he goes to call his superior, Lieutenant Aaron Rowland. She explains how she was abducted with a gun by Richard and her escape too, describing Richard's physical features as well as she could. She also informs him that he has raped her multiple times. Sergeant Bonnie asks the men who had brought Kara to the station where they had found her. They told her, but they don't recall the apartment number. Lieutenant Aaron calls Deborah to inform her that Kara has been found. Then he hands the phone to Kara to speak with her mom. Kara agrees to identify the place where she was held captive. At the location of the complex, a man is seen in the complex. He is given Richard's description, but because of the number of tenants living in the complex, he can't seem to help them locate the apartment number. Kara gives a description of what she has seen in his apartment, including the pets he keeps. She mentions that he lives with a woman with long blonde hair. The man recognizes who she is describing, so he gives them the apartment number. Sergeant Bonnie goes with the man to locate the apartment, while Kara remains with Lieutenant Aaron. Deborah arrives at the station, but she doesn't find her daughter, so she becomes hysterical until Kara joins her after getting back from Richard's apartment complex. They both hugged each other as they shed tears. Back at the apartment building, Sergeant Bonnie opens the apartment door as she goes in, accompanied by Lieutenant Aaron and Sheriff Jim Price, but they don't find Richard in the apartment. Sheriff Price gives orders to have search warrants issued for Richard's apartment. SGT, Bonnie shows Kara some pictures to look at, and she identifies Richard. Sergeant Bonnie informs them that Richard wasn't found at his apartment, but they are doing their best to locate him. Kara recounts everything she learned from him and while around him to aid the case. Then she tells Sergeant Bonnie that the lady living with him is at Disney World with someone else he knows. She gives so much information, taking everyone in the room by surprise at how much she can recall. She mentions a box that he hadn't wanted her to know about, which was under the cages for his pets. Sergeant Bonnie informs Kara that 2 nurses are coming in to check her for DNA traces. Deborah, affected by the situation, is told to wait outside with Kara, while she goes through the process. A forensic team checks through Richard's apartment, where they find damning information. The box is opened, which contains the clothes Richard had worn to abduct Kara, a girl's underwear, a newspaper with girls who had been missing years ago from another state, and a note containing directions. Sheriff Price hands over the newspapers for them to examine. Richard is declared wanted, and papers with his face printed on them are shared with the general public to help find him. Sheriff Price fills Sheriff Dale in on the information they had gotten concerning the cases of the missing 3 girls, who had been all stolen from the front yard and then found dead months later. Sheriff Dale deduces that Richard is a serial killer of young girls. Sheriff Price tells him that they had found a note with potential victims that they had made sure to check up on. He explains that Kara wasn't on his list, but some other girl who had stayed at a friend's instead of walking home. Sergeant Bonnie reports that the woman Richard was living with is his wife Ashley, and she happens to be at Disney World with Richard's mom Maggie, like Kara had said, and they were on their way back. She tells him that his mom had given her permission to have her house searched, and his sister was coming to the station as well. Kara finds her dad, Jess, and Ryan waiting for her in the hospital waiting room. Things get awkward between them as she reassures Jess that it wasn't her fault that she was taken. Then she notices 2 girls whispering about her, so she tells her mom that she needs to leave. On the car ride back home, Deborah tries to get Kara to talk to her about what happened, but Kara tells her that she really doesn't want to know, so she should stop asking. The black car owned by his mom, which Richard had used to abduct Kara, is found at her house after he switched it for another of her cars as he left in a hurry. Kara's house is swarmed with police officers, and well-wishers come visiting with food. Just then, Sergeant Bonnie arrives, and Kara takes her outside, asking her why there are so many police officers in her house. She explains to Kara that it's for her protection because Richard was still at large and that everyone is impressed that she escaped captivity on her own, so they were just showing their understanding. Kara excuses herself to go lay down. The next day, when Kara tells her mom that she is going to go to Ryan's place, Deborah disagrees, saying that she isn't safe. Jess arrives then, so Kara takes her straight to her room. Kara tells her what happened that day. Ashley, Richard's wife, doesn't believe her husband could do what he had been accused of doing, so Lieutenant Aaron informs her that he really had done it. He asks her if Richard had tried contacting her. She replies that he hadn't. Stephanie, one of Richard's sisters, gives her statement, telling Lieutenant Aaron that Richard might find a way to contact one of them soon. She tells him that she has a feeling that this wasn't the first time Richard had done such, and then she confesses that Richard had contacted her yesterday afternoon. She gives Bonnie a motel address, which he checks out, reporting her findings to Sheriff Price and Lieutenant Aaron. They were told that Kara's clothes from the abduction were found inside the room. She also informs them that Richard is on the run, but Aaron thinks he was tipped off by family members. Kara meets Sheriff Dale outside, who advises her not to go out with Richard still out there, saying she has gotten lucky because Richard has killed 3 other girls before her. Surprised by this news, Kara says luck didn't help her escape. Sheriff Price meets Kara. She asks him if Richard was the one who killed the 3 girls. He responds that he can't say for certain, but the newspaper articles concerning the girls had been found inside the box Kara had told them about. He thanks her for being a survivor who brought Richard's real nature to light. Sheriff Price is informed about Richard making a call to another of his sisters, Pamela of Ornitz. They call Pamela, who tells them about Richard wanting to meet her at a restaurant, and she gives them the address. Kara and Deborah argue about her going to Ryan's baseball game, but Kara doesn't listen to her mom, wanting to go back to the way things were. FBI agents get into position to arrest Richard. In another scene, Kara meets with Ryan to wish him good luck on his game. Just then, the FBI agent sees Richard. One of the agents pursues him on foot while the other one tracks them with a car. Richard is trapped by the FBI agents and ordered to drop his weapon, but just then he shoots himself in the mouth. The next day, Kara is told by Deborah that Richard has taken his life. She gets mad at Deborah for not telling her the news last night. Deborah explains that she didn't want to steal the good feeling she had after watching Ryan's game. Kara angrily asks her what she thought she was protecting her from before she walks out. Sheriff Price apologizes to her for not telling her about it. She tells him that she is mad at Richard because he robbed her of justice, which had been the reason why she had endured it all. She had wanted to let him know that picking her was the worst thing he had done. With Richard's death, there won't be a trial. Sheriff Price tells her that she is a hero, saying he would hire her to join the force. He also comments that he thinks Richard knows he made a mistake picking her. Sergeant Bonnie talks to Deborah, telling her to give Kara some time. Just then, Kara walks in, so Bonnie excuses them. Kara tells her mom that she can't change what happened because it happened, she's still her, and she survived. With encouragement from the sheriff, Kara became a school resource officer and investigator on child abuse and sexual assault cases with the Richland County Sheriff's Department. She hung up her badge to focus on raising her 2 sons and being an advocate for sexual assault survivors.